What's up? Welcome to a very special episode of Convos on the Pedicab. We are live we're actually not live. We are pre-recording in Gauss, Texas at the inaugural Float Fest, Flote. It's a new social media platform that allows people to interact free of censorship and speech regulation. It almost feels like you're still living in the United States. We got the one of the founders, Kingsley Edwards, his beautiful wife, Erin Nakamoto.
Edwards.
Yeah.
Nakamoto. She's Erin Nakamoto on Instagram. So I'm really excited that you guys are here. Like, this is so impromptu. I just came here to just give some pedicab rides, meet some cool people, get some crystals, do all this fun stuff, right? And instead I learned a ton about cryptocurrency. I wound up closing out with Sam Tripoli. I got a podcast going on. A whole bunch of stuff just happened at once. It's such a welcoming, awesome environment. But anyway, how did y'all get started doing all this?
Well, yeah, we started with our social network that we launched with in 2019, and we threw events. We actually met I threw the Las Vegas Bitcoin meetup, which is the largest Bitcoin meetup in Vegas, and
in
so
2014.
Yeah, in 2014. So that's how we actually met. And then since then, we just been. She has an event experience, so she's kind of taken over all the events as far as organizing. We did Anarcho Vegas in 2019 in Las Vegas, which was a really great event.
What is that?
It was more of like a conference, but it was like a single day type of thing.
Yeah, heavy focused on solutions to problems instead of people getting on stage and talking about oh, this is the problem and their reaction to it. Anarcho Vegas is more focused on okay, we get there's a problem, we get there's definitely a reaction, but what is the solution?
What do you? Yeah, how do you pay teachers more without your taxes going up and shit?
Right,
like
right. Yeah. Let's instead of focus on complaining, let's focus on creating.
Exactly. Yeah. What do you do to lower your costs to make a better society?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was Anarcho Vegas, and then we did Anarcho Vegas 2020. We actually had to cancel it due to COVID, and that was really hard. But we still had a mini event, kind of in someone's backyard. And then Float Fest kind of came to creation after we went to Pork Fest in New Hampshire, and we saw basically exactly this, but in New Hampshire. And we just kind of fell in love with the outdoor model, and we were like, you know what, we can do this. We just need to find someone with private property willing to let us use their lands, which we did, and then Float Fest was born.
Yeah, I think it's really important now, especially more than ever, and I touched on this with my last guest, the importance of finding a good community. Because you're really starting to see how unreliable the systems that are supposed to take care of you actually are.
Yeah, and that's what I say what's going on right now, where more people are waking up to the ideas of, hey, free speech is important. And also finding your tribe, finding your community, building that community. And there's just a line being drawn in the sand right now when it comes to people and businesses. And I'm actually kind of glad, it's ripping off the Band-Aid when it comes to who to deal with, hey, I want to support the businesses that are aligned with me.
Yeah, who people are.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I don't want to
stop doing business with immoral companies, and stop being on big tech platforms when they censor and steal your data and sell it for profit. It's stop aligning with companies that do bad shit.
Yeah, or companies that are literally enabling China to mass surveil their citizens and send them to these re-education camps if they don't like what they're saying.
Exactly.
So why would you support that if you can find a way off of that? I fully agree with that. 100%. I think that a lot of us are so busy arguing with each other about masks and bullshit that we forget that the most important thing that we need to do is find a way out of this kind of system that we're in.
Right.
And I think that what COVID has done is it's really brought to light how fucked up this system is in a lot of ways. And it's also brought to light how easy it is to benefit off this fucked up system.
Yeah.
But also the importance of needing to disengage and effectively disengaging. And I think solution-oriented problems and having a sense of community and understanding how to grow your own food and all that stuff, that's what's the most important thing.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's something that's a huge point that I try to make to people is, sure, COVID it shut everybody down. It basically made homes feel like prisons. But at the end of the day, like, there was good that came out of it. More kids were pulled out of school and are now homeschooled. More babies are being born at home and are not being born in the hospitals. So they're not like injecting poison into their body as soon as they're born.
A lot of people are realizing, sorry to interrupt you, but a lot of people are just waking up to the fact that how fucked up the system is to begin with.
So I think it definitely has a silver lining. More and more people are growing food at home, like you mentioned. The benefits are there.
I just want to say I really do appreciate, though, you showing up in your mask.
Yeah.
That was very responsible of you.
Of course. I mean, there's still a virus going on. They lifted the mandate, but your safety is always going to be of the utmost importance.
Yeah, you basically saved everybody on this campsite. So
yes.
Really appreciate
Well,
that.
that's what we're in the business of doing. We're just trying to slow the spread to whatever ability that we can. But we're talking about this whole mask wearing stuff, and it's like, people's reaction to the pandemic is like, you draw a line in the sand in a lot of ways in terms of who people are, right? But there's also a couple other things too. And it's that's only like scratching the surface, because regardless of this virus, like once this virus is going to go away eventually, right? But
once they release a new one.
Well, maybe, but here's what I'm saying. Like eventually, like let's say this virus goes away, right? This doesn't take into it still doesn't take into account the fact that like our government couldn't supply power to us during a winter storm, right? It still doesn't take into account that like, we couldn't have water in Austin for like a week. And I was in Florida during that time. I got lucky, but still, like, we weren't able to get water. Eventually, like, there's a real possibility that we may have food shortages in the United States. And those lines that you're waiting on to buy like food and toilet paper and whatever bullshit you have to buy at like H-E-B, like you're in a communist country, like that might actually become something that happens on a reoccurring basis, regardless of like how you or I feel about mask wearing. So I think like the big takeaway is like, this is really important. Like, people need to learn how to fish. We need to learn how to like purify our own water. We need to learn how to grow our own food. We need to learn how to be as independent as we can, and we need to do it at our own pace and learn like from like-minded people. And I'll be honest, like, I don't know shit. Like, I barely know how to fix my own car. Like, I can catch a fish. I know how to shoot a gun. Like, I'm decent at jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? Like, I was lucky enough to buy Bitcoin in April.
But it's all about,
it's like,
but it's all about taking what you know and that has value in any community. So you can teach
others.
that, and then you can learn from them. But yeah, I'm the same way. I'm kind of like, even with this event, like there's always like the first day, it's kind of like a shock. I'm like, fuck, I'm such a city slicker. Like I'm so, like I'm just not this type of person. But it gives you kind of like these types of events, I think, helps me realize like, okay, these are the types of things that I really need to focus on for the next year, so I can be more self-sustainable. And so, I mean, Bill Gates is buying up all the farmland, so I think we're fine. He's gonna feed us Monsanto.
Oh yeah, we're gonna be great. Yeah.
Monsanto fake meat and
we're gonna need
tomato.
we're gonna need to triple mask all the diseases that we get as a result.
right. So I think we're fine on that. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, and that's why I think this is our favorite type of event. We even got married at Jackalope, which happens in northern Arizona. I recommend people go check out Porkfest, Jackalope.
Jackalope Freedom Festival.
Yeah, Jackalope Freedom Festival, and we got married there, and it was just like even more decentralized than this. I mean, there's like no organizer for Jackalope, which I think is really great, and that's kind of the model that we're going both on the technical side and
it's on
the event
state,
side.
It's on state land, which is also kind of fun.
Yeah.
But no, going back to what you said, like when you said this virus is not going away, I think you just have to be specific. Like, who is the virus? Is it the media? Is it COVID? Is it government?
But I think it's a mixture, though.
Yeah,
I think all of it is true, though, right? Like, I think that like
communism.
Yeah,
like it's all
of it is. But I think that like we treat our planet like shit, right? Oil companies build, they will use eminent domain and dig like these pipelines like through farmland, and it fucks the farmland up, and it fucks with the water supply, and it forces people into cities. Because I'm like, I can't even eat the type of food that I was normally eating, and I'm stuck having to do this Agenda 21 globalist bullshit, right? So it's that. It's the fact that like our politicians are flying around in private jets left and right.
Our educational system doesn't teach us how to be
financially independent
or
self-sustaining.
Yeah,
it teaches you literally how to depend on whether it's depending on the government like communism. It teaches you to depend on a system that like legit just exploits the fuck out of you,
and that they have control over.
And if you're smart, you can become one of the exploiters in a capacity. You're like, well, there's a stock market, so I could buy shares of a company and exploit these fuckers back a little bit. But they're still not teaching you how to be they're teaching you how to be exploited. They're not teaching you how to be the exploiter.
Yeah, but even with the whole Wall Street bet stuff and GameStop and AMC, like we saw, that's they're not there to protect us. They're there to protect their homies.
Oh, I know.
Their own tribe.
Yeah.
So all we're talking about is
we need our own tribe,
we
too.
need
Yeah,
our own tribe.
we need to figure out our own-
The only thing they have is that they have the money, the printing press, the money press, and they have they're more organized. That's all they have. So now we have Bitcoin, and now we just got to get more organized, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I agree. There's so many parallels with this shit in like all these like leftist groups too. There really is, man. It's
Yeah.
like the thought process are so similar. Like we all want police reform, we all want legal weed. We all understand that there's like inherent corruption in like in our corporatocracy. It's just I think that the difference between you guys and like these like ultra left wing groups is that they are so like they have to have a perfect solution that makes everybody happy, whereas you guys are just like, well, these are serious problems. We need to fix that, but we also, while this problem exists, like we need to build each other up to benefit and at least take advantage of the situation. And the problem with these lefty groups that I've noticed, that I've encountered, is they don't really work with each other to like
No, they rely on the government.
Right, but they don't like work amongst each other to be like, hey man, like we know this is fucked up, but like they don't. How do we build each other up within this system to like improve our position in life? It's like there's a group of like what is it, like lobsters trying to come out of the fishbowl,
Right.
and whenever one person's trying to climb up, they all pull the lobster down, and like this is like we're all pushing each other out of the bowl. It's a different vibe.
I just think we take matters into like our own hands when they beg for their own enslavement and beg the government for things. If we see a road that has a pothole that needs filling, like we'll go ahead and take the initiative and fill the hole, where they'll like go and call their congressman and beg. I think it just comes down to just having initiative and like
Individual responsibility.
exactly.
And also, yeah, it's unfortunate, like with the left, because the left used to be the champions of free speech and anti-war, and now like they've with Obama, we went from Bush to Obama to Trump to Biden. This is the same game that they've played for years. I believe that they're both sides are working together. It's just like World Wrestling Federation or whatever. We just have to just like I said, like Bitcoin presents a financial opt-out. We have to present our own ways to opt out in multiple other ways when it comes to food, energy, and
building community.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's like this is a machine that you probably won't be able to defeat, right? Like, and you got to look at it that way. But you can at least disengage. And I think it's like you got to fight to try to like improve the system from within, right? But you should also have a backup plan to where like if this doesn't work, you need to figure out a healthy way to disengage from this if it gets too toxic. And I think these types of events are so important because you start learning about like how to farm, how to invest in commodities, how to do all this stuff, because there will be food shortages one day. I really think that's what could be coming, because of like climate change, environmental destruction, all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Like whether or not you believe that or not, like the fact of the matter is both sides are saying it. Like the sides on the far right are saying, hey, the government's going to manufacture a food shortage to create the new world order. And then the far left is saying climate change and environmental degradation is going to create a food shortage. So either way, when both sides are saying there's going to be a food shortage, there is a real possibility that we can have a food shortage, manufactured or genuine. And so like, how do we grow our own food? How do you buy how do you start financially investing in seeds and make money off of it, right? Like, how do you do all that?
I think we're going to be fine, though. All you got to do is take the vaccine. You got to implant the chip, and you just got to do what you're told. That's all. It's a pretty simple, and they're going to feed you. You
have to wear 2 masks, and they're going to pay you in an SDR, and it's going to be based on your social credit score. Yeah, it's just.
I have no problem with this. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's great for some people, but yeah, obviously not for us. So let's come up with our own ideas.
Yeah, you're going to play women's sports. It's going to be.
Yeah, that's the craziness right now. But
it's just finding creative solutions to modern problems require modern solutions. So where one problem pops up, I mean, we have to rise up and build out a solution. And
well, interesting enough, it's not even really. It's like modern problems require almost like not really modern solutions. It's almost like going, turning back the clock a little bit and kind of learning from where humans came from and how did we make it this far and where were the missteps along the way?
Well, we're just glorified apes, and that's what people don't understand. Like we are just fucking glorified gorillas.
You're glorified chimpanzee.
I am a chimpanzee. Yeah. That's my spirit animal. The chimp. I'm a chimp. Because I'm testosterone filled and ape like. That's what he forgot to mention. But it's okay.
So you're gonna get your mask crystallized?
Yeah, I think it's good to have good energy.
Yeah.
You got me these crystals. I don't even know anything about crystals.
You just gotta get a couple like quartzes.
I don't know.
Like a unicorn.
Yes, I don't know too much about it, but I feel like anything that could help put better vibes in the universe and help with the planet and help with the chakras and all that, like, do it. Why not, right? What do you have to lose? Just
Might as well try.
hold this crystal and feel better,
Worst
right?
comes to worst, you just look silly.
Yeah.
But
I think it'll look good.
I think you'll look fantastic.
I think that I'm not worried about looking silly, because if you're not wearing a mask, you look silly too.
Yeah, it's true. So true.
Oh man, this mask stuff is crazy though. It's like they call us conspiracy theorists while they're wearing 2 masks in their car. I'm like, it's silly. It's
Well, we think that we got coronavirus back in December, and it took about 2 weeks.
It hit me hard.
Yeah.
Like I was definitely down for the count. If that's what it was, who knows?
I mean, it also felt I felt like violated, because I could tell, like my body could tell that this is something different. This is probably not natural, and I think the whole Wuhan bat soup thing theory is kind of very out there. It doesn't make sense to me, and they haven't really shown any proof of that. So I think that this thing was created, and
I think it's very possible that it could have been.
Yeah.
And I think it's also possible that like you can get viruses from like zoonotic disease, like zoonotic interactions like can create viruses. So it's like both are feasibly possible. And when you're like when you're in a country that treats their environment like shit and produces the most coal per capita, I think, like in the world or something like that, and they have absolutely no environmental rules or regulations whatsoever, and there's over 1 billion people, and they're all crunched together in mega cities, and it's just like when all this stuff like is constantly happening. And you have an institute that is like the world's largest creator of viruses. There's like 1,500 strands of virus in that lab that we finance every year. It's fucking crazy. I mean, it's all of these things are possible, right? Like it is possible that pandemics just become something that people have to deal with, and I think that's why it's so important that we start treating our environment better. It means like you eat like real organic food, and you like learn how to fish, and you learn how to kill your own food, and you start learning how to build these communities, because that's like literally how you stop yourself from being affected by these viruses. It's not by wearing 3 masks. That's a Band-Aid on an open wound. It's about like literally changing your lifestyle so that when these pandemics continue occurring, you and your loved ones are not affected by it.
Yeah, well, it's also
what you do.
Yeah, it's also important to know who has been right all the time, or like in the past, government has basically in this past 12 months has shown that they're going to lie to you. At first they said don't wear masks. This is when they were showing videos out of China of people dropping in the middle of the street and started convulsing. That's when we were actually freaked out about coronavirus. We were like, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah,
we bought a bunch of
gas masks. We bought like a ton of food, toilet paper. Like we were on it,
And meanwhile, Fauci is saying don't wear masks. Surgeon General saying don't wear masks. WHO, don't wear masks. CDC, all of them. And then all of a sudden, then they, now we're double, triple masking. It's
immediately
like,
when Fauci was like, "Don't wear masks," we're like, "Fuck you, we're gonna wear a mask."
Yeah.
And then as soon as he said like, "Oh no, now it's time to start wearing the mask," we're like, "Well, fuck you, we're not wearing the mask."
Yeah, 'cause
I think it's funny because the people that took this the most seriously in the beginning are the people that take this the least seriously now,
Yeah.
which I think is hilarious.
Because it's proven it's just garbage. It's just a fabricated lie to. I really think it was, to sway the election.
I think it played a role.
Absolutely.
It had to play a role because it got a lot more people to vote by mail. It makes it easier to fuck around with an election when you can collect votes by mail.
It's a
It also
selection.
made a lot of people. Change their vote too, and it also mobilized a lot of apathetic progressive voters who would have probably stayed home to vote for Biden.
Yeah.
Which I think is what happened. Because I think Trump was going to win in a landslide if it wasn't for this virus.
Right.
Because a lot of the Bernie bros, if Bernie hadn't got the nomination, they would have stayed home. They were planning on staying home, but then this COVID stuff hit, and then BLM hit, and all this stuff just started happening right at seemingly like the worst possible times for Trump. And it's like, oh, now a bunch of people. Now we have a record number of people that voted. A record number of black people voted. You saw lines at these polling locations, like in the hood, never before seen. Yeah, like that legit could have swayed that election and really done
Yeah.
that. Like that there was so much manufactured outrage to change an election as a result of that. But that's just a part. That's just like one part of it,
Yeah, I mean, the United States has rigged elections, worldwide before multiple times. I mean, it's not a secret.
Yeah, so
we know that they do it, but this was just a whole elaborate plan, I feel. Like, it definitely was manufactured.
I just feel like when the military industrial complex makes over $1 trillion a year, and the pharmaceutical complex makes however much money per year. I don't think elections have been gone for a while. I think it's all selection. I mean, we know, I think the corporate players are the ones making the picks. And I think it's just kind of a, again, Trump is in the Wrestling Federation Hall of Fame. And, at the end of the day, he's been an actor more than anything in the last decade or so.
Yeah.
So,
but everyone, a lot of the conspiracy theories, like they all tried to make Trump out to be like this messiah, like he's fighting it all. And I'm like,
right.
That's the most dangerous thing that you could have done because it created complacency within a situation.
And they do this.
And
with
it created
every
like a
president.
false hero. And I'm like, dude, you guys are supposed to be like telling us the truth. And this movement that you trust for the truth was lying to us for 4 years. And I'm just like, dude, you didn't even probably if this guy was really on our side, why didn't you pardon Snowden? Like,
right.
Or Ross, or Ross Ulbricht was on his list to pardon.
And then he picked Blackwater murderers.
And
or
Lil Wayne.
And Kodak Black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm just like, man, I
Like,
don't want this guy to come back. I don't want this guy to run again
Yeah,
after
show
that.
your
I'm like,
true colors.
you
There's
showed
no
your true
excuse.
colors. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then there was this whole thing at the Capitol that you kind of like, whether or not you like, you said we're going to protest peacefully and you legally didn't say anything to incite a riot. And the BLM stuff was happening all summer long and Democrats were actually doing all that stuff. All that stuff is all true. But it's like the shit that you were saying on Twitter and the way you were acting after the election definitely got people mad enough to want to do some shit like that.
Yeah.
100%. And it's like when they did do a bunch of shit like that, you kind of turned your back on them.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, you can't trust them. You can't trust politicians.
Yeah, I mean, he requested 10,000 National Guard allegedly, right?
Right.
But it's like you're still requesting National Guard troops to guard the White House over an event that you're telling people to go to protest. Like,
Right. Here's the thing. If you or I, chimpanzee, right? Chimpanzee spirit.
Yeah.
I guess I'm tiger spirit or whatever.
tiger.
But if we were president and we saw a communist regime coming over and they mess with the election and they're taking over the White House and they're taking over the country and blah, 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 or taking over our community, let's just say, what would we do? And we have the power of all the federal agents. We have the power of the military. We have the power of National Guard, all this stuff. We can all
stop that shit. As much
Exactly, right? You would stop that because you're apparently the most powerful man in the world, right? And what did Trump do? Didn't seem like anything. And so either he has no balls or he's paid off. I mean, they probably threatened their family too. And who knows what you would do in that situation? I mean, it's hard to
But it
tell.
also takes water out of the argument of like everyone thinks Trump's like this fascist dictator. And I'm like,
Right.
no, he's really literally the opposite. Not because he's like a great guy who cares about freedom, but because he's fucking weak and incapable.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I'd rather have some weak and capable retard be president than an actual fascist.
yeah,
Right.
And yeah.
Like the best way to stop fascism with our fucked up, with our fucked up, corrupt, inept, corporatocracy-laden government is to literally have a retard run the country.
Yeah.
Who thinks he's not a retard?
Yeah.
You know?
I can't believe Kamala Harris is in the White House. I think that is the craziest thing I've ever seen. Just like, literally, look at her record, right? Like throwing all these people in prison, coming out against Joe Biden during the election. It's like how this woman got into the White House, and then how people are teaching their kids to like praise this woman. It's mind-boggling to me. Like, this woman sent more people to prison. This woman sent parents to prison for not sending their kids to school, and now she's all progressive and she's going to change drug policy.
Well, she listens to Snoop Dogg.
Hey, well, she puts her pronouns in her profile, so it's a pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pass now. But
But like kids are idolizing that.
No, I think a lot of people on the left are starting to be like, oh fuck, we fucked up. I'm
Yeah.
seeing a lot of them.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot. I see this one chick who's like this BLM organizer, right? And she was like trying to get out the vote. And I'm like, you're not getting out the vote for Trump. You're literally mobilizing people to vote for Biden.
Yeah.
And I messaged her. I'm like, yo, and then she's talking about how like, oh, Biden's bombing Syria instead of giving us checks and this and that. I'm like, well, you helped get this guy elected. And she's like, no, I didn't. I'm like, you literally were an organizer to help, and it's like no response.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, all right, well, you know what? Hey, if you're realizing what you did, hopefully you don't make the same mistake in 2024, and hopefully like you don't get an actual fascist that replaces the Biden administration.
Yeah.
Like, hopefully you don't get that. Like, it's scary what can happen, man. But before we go, like, let's talk about crypto. Educate us about like the different coins, about like the importance of purchasing crypto, different like the best apps that you can use it as like an exchange, all that fun shit. Because that's how I started meeting you when we were talking. Like, I got my first Bitcoin my first crypto payment like directly because of you. So.
Nice, awesome. Yeah, we hear that so much, and that
love
makes me so happy. Yeah, you know, I've been in crypto since 2013. Erin's been in since 2014, and you know, hey, we've been just telling people buy Bitcoin. Right now, Bitcoin, you know, it's the main one to go to, and it has the brand name recognition. But
I
there
don't
are
think it's the one to use, though.
yeah, it's not necessarily the one to use right now. A lot of people like to hold it or hodl it, as we say in the industry, because you know we see Bitcoin now. I think it's still at like 58,000. But well, you know, I started watching Bitcoin when it was at $5, started getting in at $20, and have just been watching it go up and down ever since then. And it's just, again, it's a financial opt out. You have to understand the whole thing that power, the real power behind this whole system is the Federal Reserve, because it gives them the power of the printing press, or the money printing press, where they can just, you know, print out limited money, which we saw last year. You know, I think inflation is going to reach hyperinflation in the near future. Every time there's a fiat system, that usually goes away within 250 to 300 years, and that's exactly where we're at right now with this whole U.S. Federal Reserve system.
Yep. So they're making us all poor. And then,
well, not all of us. Not if you're buying Bitcoin.
Yeah.
well, exactly.
And that's what's so exciting right now, is that we see the corporations getting in. We see,
but aren't you
everybody
like worried that like the corporations getting in it's gonna fuck it up?
I don't. I want to see my friends and all my enemies use cryptocurrency, because I realize that at the end of the day, once we get rid of the Federal Reserve System, cryptocurrency is the fastest and easiest and most peaceful path to peace and prosperity for the world.
Okay, but what about the reset? Like, if all of these institutions start buying crypto, right, and they get a bunch of other people to just overly leverage themselves into buying crypto, and then they all crash it and pull out at like around similar times, and they crash the price of this while people like leverage many of their possessions, wouldn't that make more people dependent on having to need the actual reset?
No, I would say not, because by the time there's been a ton of crypto anarchists and libertarians that have gotten into cryptocurrency so early, and so I think some of these people are going to be like the first trillionaires in the world, and a lot of these people are using their newly found money or wealth to create the greatest services and products and platforms for mankind. And a lot of that's focused on cryptocurrency right now, but decentralized technology is just getting started.
So then. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt,
Yeah,
but
no
then,
problem.
like, okay, that's true, right? If that becomes true, you think Janet Yellen wants that shit?
No, she doesn't.
Definitely does not.
So, like,
Yeah.
these guys are doing everything in their power. You wouldn't think that these guys would be doing everything in their power to try and crash that so that some guy like you does not become the first trillionaire?
They're starting to. I mean, Janet Yellen just last week was saying how Bitcoin's inefficient and wrong and blah, blah, blah.
And then Bill Gates is saying it fucks the environment. It's all a lie.
Yeah, meanwhile,
you're flying
Microsoft.
on private jets everywhere. Yeah,
Exactly.
Fuck this guy. Yeah.
Microsoft has accepted Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies for years now.
Yeah. So, there's this hidden thing, but there's other cryptocurrencies out there too. So if they try to take over one, then hey, we can fork
to
it,
another.
we can move to another, we can do whatever we
And
want.
that's the importance of alt season, because they're like, oh, you fuck with Bitcoin, we're 10 steps ahead of you. Like, we got ETH, we got Litecoin,
We got
got
Monero.
Bitcoin Cash, we can pump up Doge. We don't give a shit.
Yeah.
This is a game with no rules that they don't understand.
It's like Fight Club basically,
These
except tell everybody about cryptocurrency.
these elites. I mean, who knows? I mean, they probably know more than we think, but I think that the fact that we have so many venues and opportunities to create our own platform and our own society, and the more small businesses you have, the more choice you have to find what your passion is. Like, the more things that we create, the harder it is to the faster and more everlasting our path to freedom is.
Yeah.
Yep.
But anyway, let's end on that note. Thank you guys so much for coming on. This is an all-new episode of Convos on the Pedicab. Kingsley and Erin, how do we get a hold of y'all and just close out with like your contact info and a little bit more about FlowFest? Finish this shit strong, guys.
Yeah, so you can find us on float.app or joinfloat.com. I'm Erin, Erin, and he is King, King. You can also find us on the gram. I'm Erin Nakamoto. He's KRH Edwards. And make sure you go to floatfest.com in 2022 to check out the details, or you can just, again, get details on joinflote.com. But yeah, thanks for having us on.
Of course, no, thank you guys. Thank you guys for hosting this. Thanks for inviting us, and dude, thanks for supporting everything that we're all trying to do here. So appreciate y'all.
Absolutely.
All right.